Welcome to Echoes in the Black, a solo role-playing story told using the Shadow Dark role-playing game, where darkness presses close, resources run thin, and survival is never guaranteed. This is a hybrid of narrative storytelling and solo tabletop role-playing, using the Shadow Dark role-playing game as its foundation. The dice are honest here, and what they decide stands. After all, the dice whisper fate. This season is called The Crown Below, a story of ancient power and the consequences of digging too deep. So now, let's return to the black. So it's time, I think, for a quick recap of where our party are. Having followed a map handed to them by a stranger into the tunnels beneath the city of Carval, they came across what they have taken to be a secret, quiet vigil prison, occupied by an ogre who had kidnapped the landlady of the Wild Axe Tavern, Elsa the Elder. But also they were hoping to be making contact with Liza Marrow, a contact with the Ashen Vale, whom Zirak is looking to make contact with to further his cause. What that cause is yet, we don't know. During a fight with the ogre, Zirak went down, but Rowan and Rosalind fought on and eventually killed the ogre without taking any further damage themselves. Rosalind then healed Zirak, and the episode ended with a voice calling out to them. Okay, these being 4 adventurers down in some tunnels. I think it's only sensible to look to see if the ogre had anything interesting upon him. Now, there's only a 50% chance a wandering monster has any treasure, and that's as per page 269 of the rulebook. So 50 or under, and it does. And we get a 67, so unfortunately no. They can now search the guard room up the stairs a bit more thoroughly. They'll leave the guard alone, who is unconscious and hopefully will recover of his own accord. Have a look around. Let's see if there's anything of value other than that spear rack that Rosalind took a spear from. I'll say it's only a 1 in 6 chance. It is a low level guard room. A 1 in 6 chance, and that is a 1, so there is something interesting. Let's see what that might be. So we'll roll on the treasure table. For 0 to 3rd level, this is on page 270. And we get a 91. Wow, that is a potion of invisibility. Now that's quite a find. However, do they know what it is? That is the question. Under the description for a potion of invisibility, it says, this glass vial appears to be empty, but a liquid audibly splashes around inside it. Now, Jin is the only arcane spellcaster in the group, but she's a witch and she was raised by a witch. So I think there's a chance she might recognise what this is, especially as there is clearly liquid sloshing around inside what is apparently an empty vial. I'll give her a chance, but not a great chance. We'll say it's a hard check, and her intelligence is +0, and we'll use intelligence as the check. So a hard check is 15, and that's a 17, so yes, she does recognise it as a potion of invisibility, which is great, because otherwise having a sip from a vial that you don't know the contents of would seem rather reckless. I think it's only fair that there might be some coinage here as well, so not a lot, but let's see. So we'll say a percentile dial roll for copper pieces, so we've got 70 copper pieces, a d10 silver pieces, that's 9, that's not too bad, and maybe a d6 gold pieces, and just 1. So 1 gold piece, 9 silver pieces and 70 copper pieces that can be shared out amongst the group. And my plan from here is not to narrate how the party and Liza Marrow and Elsa escape from these tunnels. I think we'll move the storyline on. So Elsa the dwarf is roused from unconsciousness, thanks the party and tells Rowan he's welcome anytime in the Wild Axe Tavern and that bygones are left as bygones. Liza Marrow is freed and gives Zerak a message with a rendezvous for him to meet her chapter master within the Ashen Vale and the address to go to, but to keep a low profile as the Vigil are aware of him and his friends and become wary of his intentions. She shows them the way out that the Vigil used, which emerges into a warehouse by the docks. It was what the Vigil called a black house, not known to the public as a Vigil prison, but where they would interrogate political dissenters and dissidents and likely kill them unless they wanted to make a public spectacle like they did with Cal Voss. So the party return to their own safe house above the all-seeing eye and lie low for, I think, probably a week, during which time they'll make use of the carousing rules, which we'll go into shortly, but I think keeping a low profile doesn't mean that nothing happens. I'll say that the rendezvous with the chapter master will be 6 days from now. That will make it Trades Day on the 1st of Winter March and day 9 of the campaign. However, whilst lying low, I think it's only fair I roll each day to see if anything happens, and that will be just a 1 in 6 chance. So we'll roll for Fire's Day. That's a 5, so no. Swords Day, a 2, no. Restfall is a 6, no. 3, so into the next week on first day, no. And I think we will then carouse that night. So to carouse, each participant pitches in for the cost of the event. Then each participant will roll a d8 plus the event's bonus to determine their own outcome. Now, I'm aware that in Curse Scroll 6, the City of Masks, which is excellent, and I shall be using some of the content of that very shortly, there is updated carousing rules, but I'm sticking with the main rule book for now, because this is the first time we're carousing. So we'll spend 30 gold pieces on a worthy night of drinking and festivity. Now, this doesn't give us a bonus on the D8 check, but Rosalind, having no money, won't contribute to this expenditure, but Zerak, Rowan and Jin certainly will. So each character will now roll a d8 and get a result. So let's roll for Rosalind, and that is a 1. So Rosalind, after a night of carousing, wakes up blearily in bed, and she would gain 2 XP for that. We'll talk about experience points shortly. Let's roll for Rowan. That's a 3. So he wakes up in a gutter, having spent 15% of his wealth. Jin, also a 3. So they wake up in the gutter together, having both spent 15% of their wealth. And then Zerak, oh dear, that's a 2. And it says you're locked in the stocks for 1d4 days and find 20% of your total wealth. Okay, 1d4. Let's find a d4. Phew, that's a 1. So he spends a day in the stocks, having accidentally set a building on fire. Dear, oh dear. Okay, well, let's narrate that, shall we? And see what our 4 characters have gotten up to. The all-seeing eye was already heaving by the time the four of them pushed through its warped oak doors. Lantern light shimmered off tankards and spilled ale, and the air was thick with pipe smoke, laughter, and the kind of music that only sounded good after your third drink. Rowan was on his third before he'd even sat down. Gin was on her fourth. Rosalind truly tried, to maintain the posture of a woman adored, back straight, hands folded, eyes politely lowered, but the tavern had a way of wearing down even the most devout. The warmth, the noise, the clatter of mugs, and Gin's relentless, irrepressible grin. Sirac, for his part, sat like a mountain at the table's edge, arms folded, tusks catching the firelight. He drank slowly, methodically, as though the ale were a test of endurance rather than enjoyment. It started innocently enough. A toast from Rowan. When that all going down, it's just shows I'm worse at what I do best. A counter toast from Gin. I'll drink to that, Rowan. A reluctant sip from Rosalind. A deep rumbling humph from Zirac that might have been approval. And then, somewhere in the tavern, a bard struck up a tune, and everything went downhill. Gin leaned across the table, eyes bright with mischief. You know, Rosalind, I've yet to see you smile. Not even once, not even a twitch. Rosalind blinked at her cheeks already flushed from the ale. I smile? No, Gin said, wagging a finger. You grimace, you glower, you look disappointed in the world. But smile? Not once. Rowan snorted into his drink. She's got you there. Rosalind opened her mouth to protest, the scar aching as she did so. But Gin was already launching into a story, something about a merchant, a goat, and a misunderstanding involving a cursed wig. Her hands flew wildly, her voice rising and falling with theatrical flair, and by the time she reached the part where the goat stole the wig and became the accidental mayor of a small village, Rosalind's lips betrayed her. At first it was a twitch, then a soft exhale, and then finally a smile. It was small but real, warm and human. Jim froze mid-gesture, eyes wide. There it is. By the gods, it's beautiful. Someone write this down. Zirac, did you see it? Zirac grunted. I saw. Rosalind covered her face with both hands, laughing despite herself. You're impossible. And you're welcome, Gin said, raising her mug in triumph. Hours passed. Drinks flowed. The tavern grew louder, rowdier, and far less stable. Rowan challenged a pair of dock workers to a drinking contest. Gin joined in, despite not being invited. Rosalind tried to stop them. Zirac did not. The contest ended with Rowan declaring herself King of the Barrels. Gin insisting the floor was moving suspiciously, and both of them collapsing into the gutter outside the tavern, laughing like idiots. Rowan pointed at the stars. Gin, the sky's spinning. It's because it's drunk, slurred Gin. We should be supportive. And they fell asleep right there, half submerged in a puddle that smelled faintly of old cabbage. Rosalind did make it to her bed, barely, and she woke with her cheek pressed to the mattress and the distinct sensation that her skull had been replaced with a church bell. She groaned. Lord, why have you forsaken me? Zirac's night ended differently, very differently. He'd stepped outside for air. Someone had lit a lantern too close to a curtain. Someone else had shouted, Fire! Zirac tried to help. The building was only slightly on fire by the time the watch arrived, and Zirac, massive, cursed, and smelling faintly of smoke, was deemed the most likely culprit. He didn't resist, he didn't argue, he simply sighed as they locked him into the stocks at dawn, muttering something about humans and their flimsy architecture. A passing child threw a cabbage at him. He accepted this with dignity. By mid-morning, the party reconvened outside the stocks. Rowan staggered up, hair plastered to his forehead, smelling like gutter water and regret, as though she hadn't spent the night unconscious in the street. And Rosalind arrived last. Zerak looked at them all, unimpressed. "You are terrible influences." Rowan grinned. "Best night we've had yet." Rosalind groaned and Jim winked. Zerak closed his eyes and prayed for patience. And together, hungover, bruised and somehow closer than ever, they prepared to face whatever Carvel could throw at them next. So this next day is Moon Day, and it's the actual day that they are due to have their rendezvous with the chapter master of the Ashen Vale. But it's also going to be the day that all 4 of our characters level up from level 1 to level 2. So, Rowan is a fighter and he will roll a d8 for hit points. And he rolls a 6, so he's up to 16 hit points. He will also get an extra +1 to attack and damage for his weapon mastery with a longsword, which is half of his level rounded down. So that means he is +2 to attack and damage with a longsword. He's already +1 in melee anyway, and +3 to hit because of his 16 strength. So that's actually a +3, +5, +6 to hit in melee, and +2 damage, which is pretty impressive. Rosalind has a d6, and that is a 6. This is pretty good going. So she's up to 14 hit points. And because she's still under penance, I think we will roll for her new spell rather than choosing it. Now, she already knows Cure Wounds and Holy Weapon and Turn Undead because all priests know that spell already. So there's only 3 other spells that it can be, which are Light, Protect from Evil and Shield of Faith. So we've rolled a 2, so that is Light, which is a pretty useful spell in the Shadow Dark. Okay, let's go with Jin. Now she is a witch, so she has a d4 hit points. And that is a 2. So Jin goes up to 6 hit points. So she is still really vulnerable. And her spell we will choose is Shadow Dance. Now, Shadow Dance is a tier 1 witch spell, duration of 3 rounds with a range of near. And the narrative is you spin shadow stuff into a convincing, visible and audible illusion as a point within near. The illusion can be as big as a person and can move within near range of where it appeared. The illusion can't affect physical objects, and touching the illusion reveals its false nature. So that's a pretty useful spell. And finally, Zerak, as a Knight of St. Idris, rolls a d6 for hit points. And he gets 4, so he's up to 11 hit points. The other bonus for him to level up is his Demonic Possession, which I haven't actually used, to be honest, and I'll probably keep forgetting about it, but I must make note of it and make use of it because it's really useful. So, Demonic Possession says that 3 times a day, the character will gain a +1 bonus to your damage rolls that last for 3 rounds. And in addition, add half your level to the damage bonus, rounded down. So now he's level 2, that will be an extra +1, so it would be a +2 bonus to damage rolls. So that is very useful.
And this is where we leave the story, for now. The world does not pause when we stop listening. Tonight, the dice have spoken, and their verdict stands. Every choice tightens the path ahead, and the dark is learning where you are. Thank you for listening. I hope you will join me for episode 8 as our characters descend further into the darkness. If you'd like to leave a review, please do so. I'd love to read your thoughts on how I'm doing. If you'd like to get in touch, I'm on Instagram at echoesintheblack, or you can email at echoesintheblack@gmail.com. There's also the Echoes in the Black Facebook group and the Echoes in the Black blog at echoesintheblack.blogspot.com, and you can also find me on Substack. Until next time, remember, the torch always burns out.